Today we're going to be having a look at why I think Citizen is the most underrated watch brand for entry-level luxury watches. Now, keep in mind that when I say entry-level luxury, I don't mean in terms of price. I mean in terms of quality, build quality, fit and finish, in terms of the actual watch itself, and not the logo it has attached to it, not the name it has on its dial, and not the price tag it comes with. So let's start off showing you one of my favorite watches, if not my favorite in my collection. It's the Citizen Grand Touring Sport. This is in the blue dial. I've had both the blue dial mode and the black dial with the two-tone bracelet and case. Personally, I think this one is a better looking watch. Now, this is an absolutely incredible watch. Incredible value for money. I've said this many times before in other reviews I've made. I personally think that you cannot get a better watch for the price range of this Citizen Grand Touring Sport. Point an end of discussion, in my opinion. And the reason I think that this is true is because not only are you getting a watch that has an amazingly unique look, even though I know people are immediately going to start thinking about the Omega Pro Prof with those crown guards. Even some people may think about Panerai with the crown guards. And I know that there's nothing particularly special about this watch. However, when you look at it in detail, when you have it in your hand and you start to see things like that sandwich dial with those different colors underneath the white and the orange that you can see poking through in those holes on the dial between the indices, when you see those very, very tall indices applied throughout with the high polished finish, when you see that sapphire crystal that is, in my opinion, the best sapphire crystal for any watch, under $1,000. And I'd go even further because personally I have watches that cost up to $5,000. I've never seen a better sapphire crystal on any of them than the one that is on this Citizen Grand Touring Sport. But then you also have a really good bracelet, which is something that is quite rare to get. When you get a good value watch in terms of the dial, the case, the fit and finish, typically they cheap out on the bracelet, so they just throw in a very cheap strap. However, the bracelet on the Citizen Grand Touring Sport is very, very nice, very well made. My only complaint is the clasp. It's a very simple, basic clasp, and it doesn't have any micro adjustments, which I think is a real shame, because with a watch this big, I think you really do need it to get the perfect fit. So I would have very much liked to see a version with a micro adjustment, or to be able to even have a diver's extension to get a bit more space whenever you need it. However, in terms of the actual bracelet, it's excellent quality, screw pins throughout, solid feeling, it has a heavy weight to it, very nice finishing on the bracelet with those two tones with the polished and the brushed surfaces. On the back you have a exhibition display case back, as you saw, with the Miyota 9012, which is a movement specially reserved for the signature series Citizen watches, as opposed to the 1915, which is more readily available. And it comes with a custom rotor, which is also in this model, which is the Citizen Grand Touring Classic. This is more of a formal dress watch, however it's very big, so some people may think that it's just too big to be a dress watch. I've been looking for a bracelet for this watch for over a year. It's absolutely impossible to find. They've always been sold out. What I think I'm going to do is end up buying another one with a bracelet and then just keeping the bracelet and selling the watch on a strap. I've got the original leather straps, which are nice, but I think they don't do it justice. I think that a bracelet is going to look much better. But the finishing on this case, once again, is very, very nice. A mixture of polished and brushed surfaces, a very nice shape to the case, similar to the case on the Grand Touring Sport, however a bit thinner. You have the same kind of crown guards, however they're not as tall, they're not as pronounced as on the Grand Touring Sport. And you have that same excellent sapphire crystal with the anti-reflective coating. However, on this version it is a very, very domed sapphire crystal, as you're about to see. Has applied indices throughout, highly polished, and it has a very deep looking dial, especially because of that magnification that happens and distortion that happens due to the domed sapphire crystal. But it does look very deep, it does look very, very, very nice. Even though it's a simple dial, much more simple than the Citizen Grand Touring Sport, it's a very, very classic and elegant looking dial. I especially like the fact that they kept the calendar background in black too, so as to not break up the design too much. And then you have my most recent purchase from Citizen. This is the Citizen Grand Complication. This is a EcoDrive, a watch. Usually I don't go for quartz watches just because of the sweeping hand, just because I can't feel that connected to a quartz watch as I do to an automatic. However, the first time I saw this watch, I was like, okay, I need that. That has to be in my collection. There's no arguing about it. I just need that watch. It took me about a month to be able to find it. These are not easy to find. There were a few going for sale in the US. However, when I'm buying used watches, I prefer to keep it within the same country so that if there's any issues, I can return it easily. I ended up paying, if I'm not mistaken, £385 for this watch, and it was used. However, it was absolutely mint. I mean, I couldn't find a single scratch anywhere, not on the bracelet, not on the clasp, not on the case, anywhere. It looked like the person just bought it and kept it in its box. And so I think personally that's a very good price for this kind of a watch and for the fit and finish of it, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, this isn't your average quartz watch. This is a very, very highly finished watch. Has a whole load of complications: day of the week, calendar, leap year, minute repeater. Yeah, that's right. It has a minute repeater, which I'm about to show you. And that was one of the main things that made me want to buy it, because I just thought it was so cool. Obviously, to get a minute repeater on an automatic watch, unless it's some kind of a very cheap movement that's going to fall apart in a few days, you're going to be paying tens of thousands of pounds, and you're going to be buying it from one of the big watch companies, or there must be Gale, Patek Philippe, or something like that. So if you want to have just a sound without having to pay the equivalent to the down payment of a house on it, then you're better off going for something like this. It's a Campanello movement, or Campanello movement, if I'm not mistaken. It was designed by Citizen, and it's been used in some other of their higher end pieces. For example, there's a Citizen model, a Campanello, if I'm not mistaken, that goes for over £2,000, and it has the same movement in it. Now, with this watch, the main thing that caught my eye is the fact that it's so complicated. I mean, the dial is so busy. However, it's so good looking. They have managed to pull off a very busy dial and keep it looking classy, keep it looking elegant. This could be used as a dress watch, no problem whatsoever. The way it wears is very comfortable, very nice. And just the actual quality of the dial, the way everything's been finished off, the hands, the second hands, the minute hands, everything about it is just impeccable, spotless. Even in a macro lens, it's still an absolute beauty of a watch. One of my only complaints is the fact that they don't have screw down pushers or a screw down crown. I would have really liked to see that, because obviously that's going to aid in the durability of the watch. However, at the end of the day, it's a Citizen EcoDrive. These things go forever, pretty much, as long as you maintain them. And when it does come time to change the capacitor or the battery, it's a cheap and simple thing to replace. Now, when it comes to the actual Citizen higher end models, I think they're so undervalued. For some reason, none of these watches is particularly popular. There's very little information about them online, very few reviews. I mean, they seem to be watches that have completely flown under the radar, and I just can't explain why. Because these watches represent so much value for money, and such better value for money than many other watches that are absolutely loved by watch enthusiasts and watch collectors, that get a load of reviews, a load of attention online, and I just can't understand why. Now, if you look at the bracelet on this watch, it's very similar in build quality and fit and finish. It's an excellent bracelet. However, it does also have that same clasp, and it does lack the micro adjustments. However, that's not as important on this watch, as it's not that big or heavy. Now, I really like the way that they've differentiated the bracelet from this model to the Citizen Grand Touring Sport. They've made it look a bit classier, a bit more elegant, just by changing the fit and finish on the outside part of the links. And now, in terms of the actual Citizen Grand Touring Classic, just to respond to something that a few times I've seen in comments in my previous videos, no, you cannot swap the bracelet from the Grand Touring Sport to the Grand Touring Classic. Unfortunately, I tried to do it several times, you can't. I don't think it's because of a difference in look width, because as far as I understand, they're both 21.5 mil. However, I think it's because the positioning of the actual hole where the screw is going to go in it's in a different place, so you just can't make it line up and it's not going to fit. I really don't understand why they had to do that. I don't understand why they couldn't just keep it in the same place so you could swap out the bracelet from one model to another, because yes, as I said, it's been a very, very complicated process to try and find the bracelet for this watch, because even though it does look good on straps, personally I think that that's what's going to make this trio of watches perfect. If they're all on bracelets, I think that's the best way to have these watches. That's how they look the best in my opinion. Now, going back to the bracelet on this one, as you can see here, you have the polished kind of little strips going down much closer together down the center than on the Citizen Grand Touring Sport. And as you can see, while they do appear to be the same width, I don't have calipers, I can't tell you exactly, but while they do appear to be the same width on the Citizen Grand Touring Sport, it's a much more rougher look around the edges, which I think fits much more with the kind of watch that the Citizen Grand Touring Sport is, which is a very big, I mean, a beast of a watch pretty much. So I think it's very good that they've made these differentiations between one model and another. And as I said, they're both excellent bracelets. One of the things I really like about this bracelet in particular and the Grand Complication are those edge pieces on the lugs. They kind of look like an arrow pointing up. Very nice. Now here's the sound of the minute repeater. As you can see, even though it obviously is from a quartz watch, I think they've done a really, really good job in making that sound quite accurate and quite close to the real deal. Obviously, someone who's had a minute repeater, a real one, on an automatic movement is going to know the difference, but I think they've done a really, really good job, and it sounds nice and crisp and clear. So it's definitely one of those things that's fun to have and show off whenever you get a chance to. Now, there are a few things that I have to say about Citizen watches when it comes to the Signature series, when it comes to watches like the Grand Complication, watches like the Grand Touring and the Grand Classic, and there's a few other ones, like there's several other Citizen Signature watches that I have my eyes on too at the moment. There's even one that's a kind of a model that came out at the same time as a Grand Complication that has a moon face at the top, which I think was really cool. The thing I have to say about them is, and I know that a lot of fanboys, Seiko fanboys, are going to be really mad about this. I know that they're going to be really upset about this, but personally, I think these watches beat any Seiko offering for a similar price. Any. And now I know that that has to depend on the fact that Seiko has seen quite a substantial increase in price on many of their models that have been discontinued, like the Sarb, like the Alpinist. Some other models, depending on which variations you're looking at, have also gone up in price. The Seiko Monster, the Seiko Sumo, SBDC 09, which is one of the most popular ones. I mean, there are... or even the Seiko Cocktail Time, which is a watch I really like, a watch I've owned twice. However, both times I let it go because I felt like I didn't really have anywhere to wear it to. It just didn't fit my style. I'm more into these kind of a bit bigger watches than I am into dress watches, but there's no denying that the Seiko Cocktail Time is a gorgeous watch. However, my opinion with these kind of watches in the price range of $500 to $800 to $900, which you can get any of these Citizen watches for that price if you look around. Of course, they're probably not going to be new, because they're new, you're looking probably over $1,000 for any of these. However, you can sometimes get them on sale for anywhere from $500 to $700 brand new from a retailer, but used mint condition you can pick them up for under $800 as long as you're patient and you just wait for the listing to show up. But personally, I think that for that price, there's just nothing that compares from Seiko. I mean, when you look at the fit and finish, you look at the materials used, you look at the fact that Seiko has so many quality control issues. I mean, I had 3 SKX, I had 2 Pepsi bezels, and I had 1 just plain black. They all had problems with misaligned bezels. They had problems with dirt inside the dial, on the hands, on the indices, and the fit and finish of them. I mean, yes, they're nice watches. Yes, they're going to last a long time. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Seiko, right? And yes, they come with a movement that's very comparable to Miyota 9012 or Miyota 9015, which is obviously Seiko NH35. I mean, they're both entry-level movements, nothing special there. However, I think that Citizen does put a lot more emphasis on decorating their movements a bit over Seiko. Personally, I've never seen any watch that Seiko has produced under $700 that has a decorated movement past just a simple decorated bezel. I mean, a decorated rotor. Instead, Citizen does try to do a bit of work, a bit of polishing, a bit of different textures on the movement itself, which I appreciate, because at the end of the day, I mean, those are things that many other brands don't do for these kind of price levels. So the fact that Citizen does it is a step up from the kind of quality that you get from most Seikos. But besides that, I mean, most of those Seikos are now selling for twice or 2 or 3 times the price you could get them for a year, 2 years ago, which obviously is a good thing if you had them since 2 years ago, because now your watch is worth a lot more, obviously. I'm not complaining about that, because I do think that these watches, personally, I think that the one that's probably going to have the highest increase in price over the next 3-4 years is going to be the Citizen Grand Touring Sport. They stopped producing these watches again in 2017. They stopped producing the Grand Complication in 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So I do think that these are also going to have their moment, their time to shine. It just the word has to get out there to enough people, and enough people have to actually hold these watches in their hand. Because I think when you hold these watches in your hand, that's when you can tell that what I'm saying is true, and that the quality and the reason everybody who has one of these watches, or at least the vast majority of people who has one of these watches, they can't stop talking about it, and they can't stop raving about it. So personally, I think that when you're looking at prices of $1,000 for watches like a Seiko Sarb, I mean, you can't justify it, in my opinion. You're talking about a very cheap movement. You're talking about a watch that, yes, it does look good. Yes, if you get one that doesn't have any quality control problems, you're going to have a very nice looking watch. Yes, it's a very nice, versatile watch that goes with a lot of different straps. Very nice dress watch. Very nice as a casual watch too. So I understand why it's so popular, obviously. However, there's nothing there in terms of value that these watches don't have, and these watches have many things that those watches don't have. These watches have more complicated case designs. These watches have better materials. For example, the main point in that would be the sapphire crystal use, anti-reflective coating. The bracelets are much better on this price range of Citizens than on the Seikos I've had. The Seiko bracelets on any of the watches I've owned, even the Seiko Prospex line, some of the Paddy divers, were, I mean, terrible. In my opinion, for that price range, it's a bit of a joke that they put the bracelets that they put. They're kind of bracelets that you could get for $20, $25 if you were to shop around on eBay. And I mean, in terms of being watches that still haven't got a fandom behind them, which has pumped the price up, I think that Citizen is the best place you can be at the moment if you want a very, very good watch for a very cheap price. So I think that people who buy these watches, the Grand Tourings, the Grand Complication, maybe not so the Grand Complication, because I know that typically the Echo Drive watches haven't seen that much of an increase in price historically over the past 10-15 years. However, I do think that the signature line with these two Grand Tourings, I think these are going to become a lot more valuable in the future. So I think that if you can pick one of these up for around $500-600, I mean, I think you're going to be very, very happy with your purchase, because personally, out of all the watches that I've seen, both from Seiko and from other brands, micro brands, all kinds of different watches that I've been able to have in my collection, that I've been able to review, personally, there's none that has come close to the quality that these watches have for this price range. But anyway, this was obviously a lot of fanboyism over Citizen, because I do really like this brand. I do really appreciate what they do, and I do think that they need a bit more exposure. They need a bit more publicity, because there are many people spending much more money on watches that I think are inferior compared to these. And I think that Citizen has more than enough different variations and models to be able to appeal to the vast majority of people who are looking for a watch at the moment. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review, if you can call it that. Till the next time, peace.